If you're dealing with food sensitivity issues and having a hard time finding any real answers, this video is going to walk you through the steps to help you figure out which foods may be creating trouble for you, and then steps you can take to improve that and maybe be able to enjoy those foods again. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So I'm going to walk you through those steps here, but just understand that more importantly than understanding these steps is to understand the underlying cause of why these food sensitivities show up in the first place. So if you haven't already watched our video on understanding food sensitivities, then click on this now and go and watch that first so that those steps make sense, because that's really the foundation. If you're not fixing any digestive malfunctions, then it's almost impossible to correct a food sensitivity issue, and it's more likely that you're going to continue to create more of them. So once you've watched that video, now we're ready to dig in a little bit and go through these steps. Keep in mind that beyond correcting any digestive malfunctions so that you can actually break your food down into elemental nutrients, and so that that food no longer has an identity and can't say, hey, I'm a salami sandwich, once you're taking steps to improve that issue, you also want to remove any overgrowth of bacterial overgrowth or fungal, yeast, or mold type overgrowth issues that are taking place. And that doesn't mean you need to totally wipe them out before you can take these steps, but you want to be working in that direction, and you want to be working on correcting any digestive malfunctions so that by the time these elimination situation is over, you're in good shape. That doesn't mean that you need to have everything working perfectly before you can start the steps we're going to talk about today. It just means you want to be working on them so that you're moving in the right direction. So because a lot of these food sensitivity tests just seem to be flawed in one way or another, the best way to really figure out which foods are creating trouble for you is to do a type of elimination diet. And that means that we need to remove all the foods that most commonly create trouble for the most amount of people. And we need to do that for a 30-day period. Now that means that you can't have a single bite, you can't have a single sip. No matter what it is that you're removing, you got to really be real serious about removing. And that means you need to watch ingredients. That means if you go out to eat, you really need to know what you're actually eating and ask them what they're putting in your food. It's going to be a little bit difficult, and it's going to take some work to do this. But if you have one bite or one sip of a food that you're removing, you really need to start that 30 days all over again. Because we really need to see how the body functions when you completely remove the burden of the food that's creating the sensitivity in the first place. Now this can be a difficult task for some people to do. You really need to watch your ingredients. You really need to plan ahead so you don't get like starving and then make stupid decisions and think that, hey, maybe golden grams in a taco shell is a good idea. You got to really know what you're doing, and you got to take this 30 days seriously. You can't be like, oh, I'll remove all those foods for all the Thursdays and I'm still going to get what I want. It's not going to happen. You got to remove everything for 30 days. Now I outline how to do this elimination process in detail in my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts. So I'll put a link to that book where you can download it for free and get the entire book for free, and you'll go through chapter 9. I'll show you how to do this whole process. Now if you don't want to read the whole book, I'm also going to put a link to a blog post where I pretty much put that whole chapter on my website so that anybody can access it. So you'll have some resources you can pick from in the description below this video that you can get for free. But basically, here's what you're going to do. You're going to remove all processed foods, all processed foods, all sweeteners, all grains of any form, all dairy, all legumes, and all alcohol. Yeah, I just said that. All alcohol. Come on, you can do it. It's not a big deal. It's 30 days. You can do anything for 30 days. So we just remove all of these foods, or any foods containing any ingredients that are included in those foods. And then we got to be like, well, what do I eat? And for a lot of people, like, there's nothing left. What am I going to eat? There's a lot of food. There's this stuff called real food, and it grows out of the ground, and it grows from animals, and you can find real food. So in the blog post or in my book, I have a full list of things like, oh yeah, these are foods that I can eat. You know, another thing you can do to make things a little bit easier is my friends Dallas and Melissa Hartwig wrote this great book that it starts with food, and that book kind of teaches people how to do a similar Elimination Diet, and they call it a Whole 30. So you can just Google Whole 30 recipes and you'll find all kinds of things, and oh, these foods are Whole 30 approved. And so it might make it a little bit easier to find some things that you want to eat and that you can fill your plate with. Now, if you're dealing with any autoimmune type issues or symptoms, you're also going to want to remove some other foods like eggs and potatoes and nuts and all nightshade vegetables. So I have a list of other things you might want to remove if you want to do that autoimmune version if you're having those types of symptoms. Now, if you remove a lot of junk, if you're eating a lot of processed junk right now and you try to remove all that, you could really get some cravings. So if you get trouble, we're going to put a link in the description below for our video on how to stop sugar cravings fast. And that might help you get through a tough spot, around day 7 or 8 where you're kind of freaking out a little bit. That'll help you get past any cravings so you can stick to your whole 30 days. Now, once you get past that 30 days where you removed all those foods, the next step is really important. You really need to add each food back in one at a time. If you're like, oh, I'm going to make a meal with a taco and cheesy thyme and all this kind of stuff, you're adding 4 or 5 foods all in at once, and you get symptoms back, well, you don't know which food gave you the trouble. You need to remove them all for another 30 days. So you want to add foods back in one at a time, and when you add a food back in, you want to give yourself 2 or 3 days before you add a different food in. Because the reactions are always not like, oh, I ate this cheese and now I got an extra foot growing out of my neck. It doesn't always happen immediately, and it might take a day or two for symptoms to start to show from a food that was giving you trouble. So you want to introduce a new food, wait 2 or 3 days before you introduce a second food. And you just start adding things back in, and as long as everything doesn't give you any trouble, you know it's probably okay for you to eat and you can continue adding in new foods. But if something does bring symptoms back, then you want to remove that food and not eat it anymore for now. So you can go through other foods and see if other things are giving you a trouble. Now, you might not be a whole category. You might be able to do okay with, like, say, butter, but maybe cheese doesn't do you as well. So you might not want to look at just a whole category. You might be able to get specific down to some foods in that category will be okay and some may not. Once you've figured out which foods are okay and which ones you need to leave out, you're going to want to leave those foods out for a while. And just remember, the first step is to truly correct any digestive malfunctions and reduce any major overgrowth issues like fungal yeast or mold that are creating leaky gut problems. So you want to wipe out those issues and correct digestion, and then give your body about 6 months before you try to reintroduce those foods. Some people can put them back in about 6 months, and they'll test it out and they'll be like, hey, I'm doing okay. I can do that now, because their digestion is breaking that food down into the elemental nutrients. Some people might need to wait a year or more. I remember that tomatoes gave me a problem, and I had to wait about a year or so before I could start eating them again. So it'll be different for every person. You also may find some foods that you just need to remove indefinitely, and that just may be how it goes. But at least you've pinpointed what the problem is, and you can avoid it. And that's it. It's really that simple. Now, simple doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. For some folks, this could be very difficult. To remove all those foods for 30 days, you're really going to have to plan ahead and know what you're doing. But know that it doesn't have to be a complicated situation. Now, if reading about how to fix digestion is not your jam and you don't want to go through my book, we also have a totally free online digestion course that'll help you figure out which aspects of digestion may not be working correctly, and if so, what steps do I need to take to improve those. So we'll put the link to that totally free course along with those other resources down in the description below this video. For now, if you haven't watched it already, here's the link for that Understanding Food Sensitivity Issues, so you make sure you understand what's causing the problems and how to avoid them moving forward. I can't wait to hear about your results.